Kind of a draft style video, summing up generally the subject of free will, the conversation between me and Nick and others. So basically what we have is this conclusion that our brain it's a closed system, and we have to, if it's going to change or be inspired, it needs input from something else. Something else needs to stimulate the movement of thoughts. We can think on our own based on the volume of information we have, and we can conceive new ideas, and we can create that way a new understanding and have it influence our will. But it really is dependent on us having the tools to do that. And if we don't have the constituents of building our own, so to speak, then we need something from the outside to create the ability to do that. Either it has to build the foundation, or it has to inspire a way of thinking that is contagious, or that works for the other individual logically or rationally, that fits in their brain. And it's ideas and will, ultimately the will of individual humans and the will of our culture and the will of our humanity is going to evolve based on that conversation, based on this intellectual intercourse where we convey ways of thinking to each other, and with the hope that the best ideas, the best thoughts, the best wills, notions will become dominant, and that they will, through the filtering process, through filtering with all these individuals, they will own the future. And it's very simple in a way, but it's complex living in it. It's so easy to say, well, it's really clear from my perspective, and then obviously from somebody else's perspective it's complete darkness, and vice versa, I would suppose. I'll have to make that concession that maybe I'm not seeing some brilliance that's out there, some brilliant light that I'm somehow blind to. I guess the theist would argue that, but I think if you tear their logic down, it has huge gaps and flaws that can make it easy to make the argument that that's not the way it works. The delusion is more likely there than here. But that's only one subject. Alright, so anyway, just the whole idea, I was sort of thinking like a 10-step programs, for like alcoholics. It's just a way of thinking. It's this rule making again, and these rules seem to work, generally speaking, for people. They find a mechanism to make it possible for them to change their will, to prevent themselves from doing something they don't want to do, a place they don't want to end up, and they create a defense mechanism against that by creating these rules, these principles to live by. And that's really what life is. And then in this whole conversation, there's these little, statements, little, principles that are so obvious and so perfect in a way. It's like the golden rule. Do unto others as you have others do unto you. It's just, maybe I'll talk about that some more later. But even the Martin Luther King thing, the judging a man, based on the content of his character rather than the color of his skin. It's a simple statement, but it's profound. It's got such a heavy ethical weight, such a heavy rational weight, such a logical weight. It's the heaviest and the most profound of statements, yet so simple. And that's sort of what we got to search for, I suppose. So anyway, this is another one of these, like I said, this is just something I'm working on. I don't think I'll post a list, but maybe I will, I don't know. But maybe it'd be a good idea just to try to write these 10 things, 10 key thought principles that people really need to have a mind that's going to be where logic and reasoning is going to be able to manifest without corruptions, without being broken, without being catastrophically flawed, where the filters, all these filtering brains will filter well, and that through this cycling of ideas that we can more efficiently get to a better future, a better mindset, a better frame of mind, because we'll have these tools, these thought principles that will make us less pervious to the corruptions. And I guess so that'd be probably one of the, okay, so I'll just say, I'll go through this list as quickly as I can. Maybe this will be a two-part video, who cares? So I wrote down as number one, and these probably aren't the best order, but what the hell, is that we have to respect reality, that we're just respecting the notion that it's important to get it right. It's important to understand the truth, you know, not to believe in things that aren't true, not to, you know, it's critically important not to believe in leprechauns if leprechauns don't exist, because then you'll chase after leprechaun gold and there's no gold, and so there's no, it's a waste of your life, it's a waste of your purpose, it's a waste of your use, because you're chasing something that doesn't exist. And so it's really important to you know, you can, you know, we have to accept that we have different definitions of reality. But let's be serious that what we're really trying to do is know the truth. We are trying to know the truth. We're trying to interact with reality. We don't want to interact with a false perception, because that logically it's easy to see that that's not conducive to doing right and wrong, or the best, or maximizing your own existence, if you are interacting with a world that isn't the real world. So I think it's a pretty important one. Okay, the second one is to admit or recognize the corrupting influences of self-interest, of our addictions. I mean, I use that word a lot, but we're addicted by nature, and then conditioning, you know, refines those addictions, makes them color sensitive, or however you want to put it. You know, it narrows them to specific things that inspire us, or we call beautiful, or we call attractive, or we call desirable, we call tasty, and it's just important to admit that those elements of our psychology are dangerous to intelligence, that if we're not careful, it's very easy for our natural impulses, our reflexes, our stupidest self to own our best self, to direct the reasoning, you know, to almost take control of it at too high a level. And at that high level, it just bends it, it just distorts it, it just perverts it, because then we just start using our brain to rationalize, to make excuses, rather than to do something really honest and do something hopefully useful, or, like I said, whether it's to yourself, whether the conclusion is that you are more important than them, doesn't really matter for the sake of that point. It's just as a practical matter, as an individual, you're more likely to have control over your life if you have some understanding of the things trying to control you, and your nature is trying to control you, and your conditioning is imposing control on you. All right, your culture has, you know, does own a piece of you. Nature owns a piece of you, and you can't let that slave owner, that you can't be whipped. You've got to understand that mechanism isn't going to be likely to be productive in its influence. All right, number 3. Yeah, that's the golden rule one. You know, do unto others as you do unto yourself. It's just seeing yourself as just a self, just one individual. You know, recognizing the essential equality of the states of being. I mean, all these other breathing human beings are pretty much in an equal state of being as you are. Yes, you can pass your judgments, do this, do that, try to diminish their reality, but you logically and rationally, I don't think you can do that. I mean, I don't think you can legitimately do that. Even if they're the worst asshole on earth, their sensibilities are still their sensibilities. Their pain is still pain. You can't take that away from them rationally. You might do it emotionally, but rationally you can't. And it's important to recognize that. And then to recognize too, like the future is that those are real people in the future. That they're not just cardboard cutouts or something.